Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Unstoppable Dad Project. Appreciate you joining me here for another week and another year, the second episode of 2024. So this week I'm going to do an episode, hopefully a relatively quick episode, around 5 things you can start doing right now to help improve your health. Obviously, 2024 has just begun and a lot of people use that as a new lease to improve some things that they maybe have wanted to improve for a while, or to implement some new habits and some new changes. I've spoken before on the podcast where I am not one of these people that actually thinks that New Year's resolutions are bullshit. I do believe, though, however, if you've got something that you want to change, trying to change it when you get the urge to change it, rather than waiting for a week on the calendar or a particular day to do it, is the best course of action, because that is when your motivation is highest, and having that initial rush of motivation can actually go a long way to help you getting started. Whereas if you wait, let's say, for example, you've got the urge to change or do something in the early stages, like in the late stages of December, and then you've got to wait a week or 10 days till January because you want to make this your quote-unquote New Year's resolution, there are a lot of things that can happen over the course of 10 days, which could eat away at your want to actually do that. It could also eat away at your drive to do it as well, too. And if you haven't been doing it in the past, having that initial motivation to get started is going to be a very powerful thing from what I have observed and what I have seen within the people that I've coached, and also within my own life. So New Year's resolutions for me aren't necessarily a bad thing. If you want to use the new year as a catalyst to get started, all power to you. And this week I just wanted to go through like 5 really, really simple things that I think everybody could implement to start to improve their health. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to implement all of them at once. I think that trying to implement something that is easy for you to do, that's not going to create a whole lot of friction, is important. But these things, while I could say training and I could say change your diet and I could say all those things, these things aren't that, right? These things are hopefully really simple things that you could start doing now. All change is hard. So implementing any level of change is going to be hard, especially to stick to it. And you need to make sure that you are committed to doing it, because while at the start of the year, this motivation is going to be quite high and you are going to want to make the changes, or you get the urge to change something and you want to actually start to do it, that motivation is not going to be around forever, and you're going to have to rely on some level of discipline to do it. So without going too far down the rabbit hole, because I have done multiple episodes on this, you want to make sure that your why for implementing these is big enough to get you past whatever excuses or roadblocks you're going to put up for yourself. Because if it's not, you're always going to prioritize other things. You're going to prioritize the easier route. We tend to do that as human beings. Sometimes that's not a bad thing. Sometimes we need to take the path of least resistance. But when it comes to actually implementing long-term change, you are going to need to have some grit at some point and rely on your discipline to actually get these things moving forward. So 5 things you can start doing now. I'm going to start with the hardest thing, and the one that, if you're listening to this, most people are probably going to roll their eyes at. And it's stop drinking. Stop drinking alcohol. Not stop drinking in general. Keep drinking water. Even to the point where maybe if you drink a lot of soda, stop drinking. If you stop drinking alcohol, it will make a marked improvement on a whole bunch of markers. If you are constantly in physical pain, depending on the level of pain and the causes of it, but you drink a lot, the unnatural inflammation in your body will go down. Alcohol is essentially a poison to us. So cutting that out of your life will go a long way to do that. It will also help you with your quality of sleep. There's a few things on this list here which actually relate back to your quality of sleep and trying to get a better quality of sleep. It will help improve your mental state. Alcohol is a natural depressant. Cutting it out of your life will do that. And the more information we get about alcohol and the more studies that are done, we start to see that there isn't actually a beneficial amount for us. The most beneficial amount is 0, and trying to cut it out completely can be something that will actually move things forward for you from an overall health point of view. There are a lot of benefits to not drinking. Now, in saying that, I get that it's hard in social environments. There is a lot of pressure where you have to do where you feel like you have to drink, but in today's day and age, there are actually a lot of vehicles which can help you in those situations as well. There are 0% alcohol beers that you can get from most places that you go to. That way you can still be sociable, you can still have a drink, but you're not actually ingesting the alcohol portion of that. Like, there are other things that you can look to replace that with. But that's number one. But in saying that, out of all the things on this list, that would be the number one hardest thing for most people to get rid of. So again, back to one of my initial points, like, your why for doing it has to be bigger than any roadblock or any excuse you're going to give yourself. But if you cut out alcohol, it will be something that I can almost guarantee will improve your life across a whole broad range of health markers. So that's number one. So I've gotten that out of the road. Number 2 is go for a walk. So get into the habit of walking. Now, I've had a lot of clients over the years that have told me, I hate walking. And I used to be one of these people too, right? But for me, right now, I actually like going for a 30 to 40 minute walk by myself. It allows me to clear my head. I do it generally in the morning. I don't generally do it in the afternoon. It's usually one of the first things that I do if I'm going to do it for the day. Now, I'm not doing it every day, but going for a 30 to 40 minute walk each day, for me, is a bit more of a mindset helper over the course of the day rather than it's physical. But there are a lot of physical benefits for it. I've done an episode which is solely dedicated to giving you an insight into what I see some benefits of walking. So, and just to cover off those quickly, number one, there's obviously a physical benefit. So if you're somebody who is trying to be more active, it can help you move things in a positive direction from that point of view. While it doesn't seem like much, if you're not doing it, it is more activity. It will start to move things in a better direction from trying to increase your overall health, fitness, and well-being. As I said, for me personally, it's more of a mental benefit. It gets me out in nature. It allows me to clear my head and kind of just get away from a lot of the noise that I may be experiencing for the day, the week, or the year, and just kind of be in my own thoughts for a little bit. And that can be a scary thing for a lot of people. But for me, there's a lot of benefit in just going for a walk. The other thing, from the point of view, if you're somebody who's looking to train more, or you are looking to implement a new movement regime and you haven't done it, you haven't actually had it in your life, by doing a walk, let's say it's 30 to 40 minutes or 30 minutes to an hour every day, you can do 10,000 steps. 10,000 steps is actually a fair bit harder than I think what people believe it is to achieve each day. But let's say you need a tangible goal, you can do that, whatever that looks like for you. If you start by doing that, let's say you want to implement going to the gym, by doing that 3 to 5 times a week, you're also able to prove to yourself that you can set that time aside for yourself. Now, I did actually have on this list that set time aside for yourself was one of the 5 things, but I wanted to make these really simple things outside of the stop drinking thing, because it's easy. Stop drinking's easy to articulate, but it's hard to do. Walking, easy to implement. Adding the logistical side of things in for most people can be the hardest thing. But if you're looking to implement some form of new training regime, by starting off with walking, it's going to start you in the habit of setting that time aside for yourself to do something physical. And for a lot of people, that can be the first roadblock. If you've told yourself you don't have time to do it, time is always one of the biggest constraints for a lot of people. Now, we can go down the rabbit hole of thinking that, yes, it's time, sometimes it's priorities, whatever the case might be. By adding in that walk, you don't need any equipment. You don't need to get in the car and drive to a gym. All you need to do is put appropriate clothing on, put your walking shoes on, and then go for a walk. and just do that for a dedicated amount of time. So it starts the habit of doing that, so that then later on down the track, you can branch into doing something a little bit different, a little bit heavier, start lifting some weights, get yourself a home gym, whatever the case might be. But you've already proved to yourself that you can dedicate the time to do something to do something physical by going for that walk. Coupled within that, if you do the walk in the morning, the third thing on the list is getting some sun in the morning. I've spoken about this on the podcast. This podcast is more about just giving you 5 really simple things that you could start doing. By getting up and getting some sun when the day allows it to, you are going to do a lot of things. You are going to set your circadian rhythm for the day, which is going to allow you to get to sleep better at night. There is also, a lot of benefit in getting early morning sunlight from a vitamin D point of view, especially if you live in Australia. Most places in Australia, especially through summer, you will be able to get a very good amount of natural light, natural vitamin D from just the sun in general. There are a lot of health benefits from not being vitamin D deficient. You're going to be able to ward off colds better. You're probably going to recover from, though, if you do get sick, you'll be able to recover from getting sick better. And then from the point of view of males, ingesting vitamin D from a pill form, but also having adequate amounts of vitamin D can help with testosterone levels. And there are a whole host of other benefits that can go in with doing that, and that's getting early morning sunlight. If you get up, don't go looking directly at the sun. Like, that's not what I'm saying here. I'm just saying when you get up in the morning, if the sun is out, go to somewhere where you can get, it's not super shady, but you're able to get direct sunlight on your face, on your arms, on your legs, and even chest and back. But you don't have to stay out there for long, just 10 to 15 minutes. For some people, you couple that with a walk, and that can be a little bit of a quote-unquote morning routine. I'm not a massive morning routine guy, but that's something that I kind of aim to do pretty much every morning in some way, shape, or form. For me, for the vitamin D thing, if I'm not walking, the direction of the garage where I have the studio set up, sunlight comes in every morning anyway. So I get my vitamin D, I get that direct sunlight in the morning when I work out after having the garage doors open. If it's a nice clear day, I will get that vitamin D while I'm doing my workout. So there are a lot of ways you can couple that into whatever else you're doing in the morning. But 10 to 15 minutes, it will set you up. It will set everything off for the day. The next thing, number 4 on the list, is put the phone down, especially before bedtime. Now, putting the phone down is a tough one because it has this draw to it where we want to pick it up, we want to scroll because we feel like we're missing out. There are a whole bunch of reasons where we're trying to get that dopamine hit from scrolling through, seeing what a whole bunch of people that we don't know do. But I can tell you from personal experience that if you're somebody that suffers from some mental health issues, going on social media and continuously scrolling is not going to benefit you in the least, because it is going to create this level of comparison against what you are seeing. And if we know anything about social media, from the point of view of what we see, it is the highlight reel of almost every single person on there. There has been a bit of a movement where people will show the bad days and things like that. But everything that is put up there is cultivated to look good, even when they're showing you bad things that are happening, right? And even that, from the point of view of the bad things that are going on in the world, that's not going to help your mental state at all. So getting off social media from a mental health point of view can be such a powerful thing to start to move that in the direction that you want to. And then that time that you actually claim back, that you might have been endlessly scrolling for hours on end on TikTok, on Instagram and things like that, which is rather ironic because a lot of this stuff that I'm putting out is going to be on social media. By getting on there and scrolling through and getting that time back because you're putting your phone down and only using it, you might use, I'm not saying don't use social media because it can be a powerful way to keep up with family and friends, but you need to look at limiting your time on there, whether that be putting, say on an iPhone, you can actually put restrictions on the amount of time you use apps, so using something like that. but putting it down and claiming back that time and then replacing that with something that is going to be more beneficial for you. The walking that we just talked about. Maybe if you haven't been going to the gym, you can go to the gym. Or maybe it's just being more present with those in your family. Maybe that needs to be something that needs to go hand in hand with putting the phone down. And then the second part of that is putting it down, especially for before bed, because like the sunlight in the morning that we get that's going to set our circadian rhythm, if you're somebody who struggles to get to sleep and you're sitting in bed scrolling on your phone, that is going to inhibit your ability to get to sleep. And even if you don't struggle to get to sleep, scrolling through and looking at that light at night right before you go to bed is going to inhibit your ability to get into a deeper level of sleep earlier. So putting it down before you go to bed, not only is there going to be a mental benefit to it, there's going to be a sleep benefit. And sleep, in case you haven't noticed, from the point of view of getting that sunlight, doing something, stopping, like doing a walk each day, stopping drinking, sleep is going to be one of the things that, as I've gotten older, I do value more. And I think those of us that kids need to value the sleep we can get when we can get it. But I think we all know that we are a much calmer, better, well-rounded person when we get a good night of sleep. So setting ourselves up for success by doing other things during the day that we know are going to help aid our quality of sleep and the amount of sleep we can get is going to go a long way to improving our health markers in the new year. And the very last thing, again, tied in with sleep, is have a dedicated bedtime. Now, I know we're all adults. We can stay up when we like. We can do when we like. We can do what we like when we like. We can stay up and we can watch 17 hours of Netflix if we want to and then go to work dog tired the next day. But the reason I say have a dedicated bedtime, it doesn't have to be every night. You don't have to go to bed on that particular dot. But if getting a good night's sleep is important to you, having a dedicated bedtime means that you can do some of the things that we've spoken about beforehand, knowing that that's when you are endeavoring to go to sleep. If you're going to say, I'm not looking at my phone an hour before I go to bed, if your dedicated bedtime is 9, you know you need to put the phone down at 8. Now, it might not mean that you go to bed right on 9, might be 9:15, might even be 9:30 some nights, might be even earlier, might be 8:30. But it starts to set up that pre-bed routine beforehand. And then also on top of that, especially for those of us that are parents, specifically new parents, by having that dedicated bedtime for yourself as well as your kids, can help you on the nights you're able to maximize your sleep, get better sleep. Whereas if you're wishy-washy about when you intend to go to bed, that's one of the things that I've noticed with a lot of people that I've had quite in-depth conversations around their health and around trying to improve those markers. They don't have. They tend to just go to bed when they feel like going to bed or when they feel tired. And while for some people that intuitive approach works, for the vast majority of people, if they're struggling with sleep quality and energy and all these other things, not having that dedicated bedtime can lead to a lot of other issues and can lead to just going to bed when they feel like it. And because maybe they haven't done the other things that we've talked about, maybe they're on their phone till all hours of the night, they're not getting that morning sunlight, they're having a couple of beers every night, and even though they might actually put their head on the pillow at 10 o'clock, they're not actually starting to get quality sleep till like midnight because they haven't set up these behaviors prior to going to bed. Whereas they may set that dedicated bedtime for 10 o'clock, but then they start to understand that the other things that they need to do in order to wind down for that time, rather than just going through the evening or the afternoon aimlessly, having that dedicated bedtime can help you not only maximize the sleep that you're able to get, but can help you maximize your quality of sleep because you're able to start the behaviors that you need to implement right before leading up to that particular time. So they're my 5 things that if I had to pick 5 things for somebody just to start off with that I wanted them to focus on, they would, and realistically, the last 4 would be where I would start because, as I said, number 1, stopping drinking. That's a whole mixed bag that could come from that, right? Like, and there's a whole lot of variables, but we are starting to see and we are starting to understand that not consuming alcohol can be a beneficial thing. So that's the first one. But the next one is walk. Put aside time to go for a walk. Doesn't matter whether it's 2 times a week, 3 times a week, or it's every single day. I think there's a lot of benefit in doing that. Number 3, get some sun in the morning. That can be coupled with your walk, with your workout, or it can just be you going and just sitting on the grass, getting some sun, not looking directly at the sun, but getting some sunlight in the morning, getting that vitamin D hit and setting your day up, and then you sleep that night for success. Number 4, is put the phone down, and that may be reducing the frequency at which you are endlessly scrolling and trying to be more present, and not taking in as much negativity or even obscene positivity from social media and comparison and so on and so forth. But putting the phone down, especially before bedtime, to allow your brain time to wind down so that you can get a good night's sleep. And the last thing is have a dedicated bedtime. Doesn't have to be hardcore, set in stone. You are asleep by 9 o'clock and that is it. It is just a guideline for yourself so that then you can start what you need to as a pre-bed routine to maximize the amount of time you can sleep. If you've got kids that wake up, there's going to be nights where they're not waking up, hopefully. Fingers crossed if they are. If there's not, I feel greatly sorry for you. And I hope that sorts out for you soon. But by having that dedicated bedtime for yourself, you can kind of start the steps to make sure that you're able to maximize your sleep and get the best night's sleep that you can. So a lot of stuff around sleep within those 5 things, but they're 5 kind of low-hanging fruit type deal things that I would do if I was starting from scratch, or I'd recommend to somebody to do to start to get things from a health point of view moving in the right direction. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there is something else that you would have on the list outside of those 5 things. What does that look like? How would you implement it? And what would you recommend other people do? So you can drop a comment, send me a message around that. I'd love to do a little bit more of a podcast on other answers that we could get, or jump onto the social medias at The Unstoppable Dad on Instagram, The Unstoppable Dad Project on Facebook, or jump into the free Facebook group and let us know in there and start a conversation around some other things that you might recommend for somebody who is looking to improve some health markers for themselves in this new year. So thank you once again for listening. I appreciate each and every single one of you. Have a good week. Goodbye.